Hello everyone, welcome to Testbook Supercoaching for regulatory bodies. So we are going to discuss some important news. First of all, we'll discuss some news and then we will talk about the MCQs which we are discussing on the daily basis. So first, we will start with some interesting and very important news in which we are going to analyze the complete news in a detailed manner. But before that, RBI Grade B scholarship test, Republic Day scholarship test will be there on 26th of Jan and it will start from the 8 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. In that time frame, you can give this test. The test duration will be 16 hours. So remember that it's a very important test for your preparation point of view and will be on the 26th of Jan. Okay, so we'll talk about the news first. We'll talk about some important news, and the first and the foremost news is about the registration for public procurement partners. The interministerial clarity sought on the China bidders. So DPIIT recently gave some instructions to different ministries so that the investments or so that the bidders from the China should get a kind of a smooth access, because there are so many issues right now we are facing. So we'll talk about this news in detail. Exactly what is the scenario. So Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade is addressing the delays. Basically, out of 269 application, only 17 have been approved, while 104 awaiting comments from the nodal ministry. So there are so many investors from the China. They want to invest. They want to bid for certain government programs or the government bidding technique or so many other things. So in India, we have the rule that if the Chinese investors or the Chinese the businesses, they want to bid for the Indian any kind of tender or any kind of thing, they need to take the permission from the certain ministry. So there are always a delay when it comes to the permission. Only 17 got the permission. Other are waiting for the comments. Other are waiting for the response from the ministries. And that's why DPIIT asked that within 30 days of the application, the process should be completed. So Commerce Ministry recently asked DPIIT to release this notification that within 30 days, this should be clear. Otherwise, it will create a chaotic situation. It will create the chaotic problem. So the last year, the end of the last year, there was a BRICS meeting in Russia. And before that meeting, India and China's the relationship, we try to smooth that relationship, but still we are facing many troubles, especially from the Indian ministries. And that's why this is really very important. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has the highest number of pending cases, that is 16, followed by the petroleum and natural gas and then the steel. So they have the huge pending cases. Anyways, all the ministries are having their pending cases, but the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is having the biggest or the largest number, and that is a bigger problem over here. Of course, such kind of delays are going to reduce the efficiency of Indian businesses. They are lead to the like lack of ease of doing business, we can say, because we want to promote ease of doing business. And if we permit some investors, if we permit some country that they can come and invest into India, so we should give them the permissions in a as soon as possible. If you don't want to give them permission, just cancel their application. But whatever the result or whatever the things you want to make with those bidders, so you should mention within 30 days. That is a point mentioned by DPIIT in this new notification. So that will be the enough part. Now we'll go to the next news, and the next news is really very important. That is India may account 16% of the consumption by 2025. So recently, World Data Lab project by the McKinsey International, they gave this data that consumption expenditure or the consumption of some developing countries is going to be very higher, especially when it comes to India. The consumption will be 16% of the world's consumption by 2050. So Indian consumption will be very high. If you compare with the other countries or the continent, India's consumption will be highest. Only the North America, means Canada, USA and the Mexico, these countries are, or together this North America is having more consumption and will be having more consumption than India, but India's consumption will be 16% of the world consumption mentioned by this particular organization. So let's talk about this in detail, exactly what they are saying over here. So India is expected to contribute 16% to global consumption by 2050, up from 4% in 1997. 9% in 2023. So there will be the huge change in Indian consumption pattern. The one of the major reason is that younger working population is a major reason. Now what will be the benefit of that? Iske benefits kya honge? So let's talk about those benefits also. The growth highlights India's rising economic significance in the global scale. Okay. North America 17%, Western Europe, Greater China, Advanced Asias, they are having some declining in the consumption pattern. Now regions such as India, Sub-Saharan Africa, Emerging Asia, okay, are said to account for substantial portion of the global consumption, that is 50%. So these countries together, India is a part of this particular mix or this particular group. 50% consumption will be from these countries only. That is also mentioned by this McKinsey's World Lab report. Now labor contribution, the demography. By 2050, these regions will account 2/3 of all hours work globally. India's support ratio, work age population per dependent, is currently 9.8, is expected to fall to 1.9 by 2100. Okay, so of course this India's support ratio, working age population per dependent, so working age population per dependent is 9.8 right now, which is very good. Of course by 2100 it is going to drop down. It happens with every country because your working population is at the top right now, but day by day, year on year, it is going to drop by 2100. Zamana baki hai. So it is going to be 1.9%, just like a Japan and the Korea right now experiencing. They're experiencing less than 1%, by the way, but for India it will be 1.9%. It is going to happen, no doubt about that. We all know about this thing, but till that time we should have a proper growth. Now what will be the benefit of such kind of things? Of course investments are going to get increased, because if the consumption of this country is more higher, of course the economic activity will be more stronger. And the other investors or the foreign companies are there, they are going to invest more and more in those countries where the consumption is higher or where demand is higher. So of course the investments are going to get increased. Now population fertility trend, India's population share will drop from 23% in 2023 to 17% in 2050 with a population of 1.5 billion. Fertility rate have declined and India is now below the replacement fertility rate. Replacement fertility rate means what? Jitni death ho rahi utna utne birth ho rahe. That is called replacement rate. So we are less than replacement rate. So fertility rate is decreasing, okay, no doubt about that, and it should be because there's a huge population in the country. We also need to control in some level. So we are doing that, but the growth rate will be 17%. That is another factor. Now economic implication. Between 97 to 2023, India's demography dividend added 0.7% annually. However, the falling labor intensity and aging population are likely to limit the advantages. So they compare right now the present situation of Indian economy with 2050 and 2100. So comparison is obviously depending on the population, the working population, and the demand it will be there. So depending on those factors, they mention this data by the McKinsey. The broader implication for businesses, companies must adapt to changing consumer preferences in India and other emerging market. Okay, then tailor-made products are required, because if the consumption is going to be higher, of course companies need to make changes according to the local market. Then economic shift, the declining consumption share of advanced economies indicate a shift in the global economic power towards emerging regions. Like I was mentioning, Europe's consumption power is less. We'll talk about the Western countries' consumption pattern is going down. So in that time, so businesses need to focus on the emerging market, because these markets are going to run the world. These markets are going to lead the world. So that will be the important factor. Then policy consideration, India must prepare the demographic challenges of an aging population. Like Japan and the South Korea, they are facing these problems right now. Even China started facing this problem regarding the aging population. India should also think about the policies for the future जब aging population का problem आएगा, and transition from the advanced to emerging economies as a major consumption drivers mark the significant redistribution, and that is another point mentioned in this particular report. Very important report, no doubt about that. Direct questions, 1-marker questions, 2-marker question, as well as for the answer writing. Such kind of reports are very crucial. Now, the another news that RBI is this norms for ARC to settle borrowers' dues. So that is another and important news for us. ARC, Asset Reconstruction Company, so RBI allowed them to ease some norms so that they can work more freely without a heavy restrictions on them. So dues above 1 crore, suppose there are some dues above 1 crore. Previously, such settlement required the board approval, but now they can now settle based on the board approval policies, and there should be or there can be a small panel or a small committee from the board. They can also give the permission. If the dues are below 1 crore, then the one official permission will be enough for them. They don't require to go to the board directly from the official, or a certain officer can be appointed and that officer can give the permission. Now, composition of the committee must be an independent director, include at least 2 independent director or 1/3 of the total strength of the board. So this committee which they asked to create a small committee. The composition of committee should consist of independent director as a chairperson, minimum 2 independent director. So in that way, they will decide what to do regarding such kind of concept. Okay. Now, independent advisory committee. This committee comprising profession with technical, financial, legal expertise is required to examine the settlement proposal recommendations to the ARC. So there should be independent committee. What are the settlement proposals given by the ARC? To check that, to check the feasibility of that, we should have the independent advisory committee. Then evaluation of settlement options. ARC must deliberate on the IAC's recommendation. That is another factor they have mentioned. So basically giving more liberty and a proper transparency for the ARC actions is really very required. There was a demand from so many days, so I will say so many years regarding such kind of change in the norms, and finally Reserve Bank of India decided to make these changes. So what will be the implication? First of all, flexibility in the operations. So NBFCs or the banks or the settlement through ARCs will get more flexible environment, so liquidity can be managed properly and the economy can manage these things very easily. Otherwise, there are strong restrictions, and due to that, many of the times banks were not able to handle their NPAs or not able to settle their NPAs through ARCs. But now these problems are going to be easily solved. Ease of small loan settlement. Small loan settlement will be also get very easily settled, less than 1 crore. Basically, small loans means below 1 crore, and those loans will get settled very easily with a smooth kind of action. Then focus on realizable values, mandating settlement to ensure present value not being lower than the realizable value, ensure that recoveries are economically viable. This is most important. So many times ARCs in India, they are getting lost because the exact loan amount and the current prices that are not matching, and that's why the ARCs are not going to get, or they were not getting the good amount of money, good amount of returns, and that's why there was no viability, there was a loss in the businesses, and many ARCs were not interested. But now these kind of rules are going to give a proper backup or proper guarantee to the ARCs, and that will be helpful. Enhance reporting and accountability. ARCs must report quarterly on the resolution of the accounts, their boards and the panels. This is important factor, the report quarterly. Then reduction on one size fits all approach. ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है which usually used to happen in India. So एक approach बना दिया because the policy they used to create and they used to implement that policy for all types of recoveries. So it should not be like that, because every loan, every customer, every type of NPA is a bit different with many conditions. So if we'll follow or if we'll focus on that problems, definitely recovery will be much better. So one kind of a size fits all, that approach should not be there, because it usually hampers, and that's the major factor over here. Okay. Now the another news, and this news is going to give us many important news in future, because we created a new committee under the leadership of M.K. Jain sir. M.K. Jain sir, former RBI Deputy Governor. The committee consists of 5 members, and this committee is created by Reserve Bank of India. as an external advisory committee which will evaluate the applications for universal banks and the small banks licenses. So there are so many applications for the bank licenses, and now MK Jain committee is going to evaluate those applications, which applications are worthy to give the licenses for universal bank as well as small finance bank. Like I already mentioned that some small finance bank, they applied to get converted into the universal bank, like AU is one of the example. Then some payment banks are thinking to get converted into the small finance bank, like we are talking about the post payment bank. From many days or many months they are discussing that they should get converted into the small finance bank for better financial inclusion in the country. So let's hope that MK Jain committee is going to work on those applications, and let's see what or which institutions are going to get license in India. Even Zerodha was thinking about getting the license from the RBI, so might be it will get considered now by the MK Jain committee. So yes, in future we are going to get some big news because the new banks are coming in India. If the government, if the RBI is creating a committee, so that means there will be some banks that are going to get the license. Last time Bimal Jalan committee was created, and Bandhan Bank and the IDFC, they got the license that time. Then we created the Nachiket More committee for the payment banks. We created the Usha Thorat committee for the small finance banks. So whenever we created the committee, we always got some big news, and those news and that news is coming in few days. So remember that factor. Now, government plans to repurchase bonds worth 20,000 crore on Thursday. For the fiscal consolidation purpose, to reduce the fiscal deficit, Government of India is usually following such kind of actions with the help of RBI. So RBI is going to repurchase or buy back government bonds. Some of the bonds having tenure till the May 2025. Some of the bonds are having till the June, September, November, and even Jan 2026. So these bonds Government of India is planning to repurchase because before budget or before the end of the financial year, we want to reduce our fiscal deficit. We want to consolidate our financials, and for that purpose, this regular action will be taken by the Reserve Bank of India on behalf of Government of India. So that is a big news. We don't need to remember the numbers, just we should have the idea that such actions usually banks are taking. Okay, so we'll go to the questions. We'll go to the MCQs now. We'll discuss few MCQs and then we'll stop. The first MCQ of the day. Which institution has given permission to NRI to open rupee accounts in authorized banks abroad? So recently, which institution gave the permission to NRIs to open rupee account in abroad? Like we discussed yesterday regarding the specialized Vostro accounts will be used to create such kind of account. Usually NRIs can open rupee account in India. That is called the NRERN. That is NRI or we call as a external rupee account. Okay, NRERA account or external rupee account. But now these NRIs can open the rupee account in their country with the help of Indian bank branches, and that permission is recently given by the Reserve Bank of India. So RBI allowed overseas branches of the banks to open rupee account for the people living outside India. So it's a very important concept. So we are going to create special rupee Vostro account, special non-resident rupee account. So in these or through these accounts, we are going to provide this facility. Recently, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas was conducted, and we gave some awards to some Pravasi Bharatiyas also. Even that time, this was one of the feedback got from the many NRIs who are working in different countries. So RBI was already thinking about this. They are already in process. So finally, RBI announced this, that we are going to allow NRIs to open rupee account in those countries. It will also helpful to internationalize Indian rupee because rupee will be invested in their countries. So obviously rupee will be used in those countries. So it will be really very helpful to internationalize the rupee. Which institution, this is the answer, RBI. On which day was the first Foundation Day celebration of the Lokpal of India held? So Lokpal Foundation Day, recently we celebrate. On which day we celebrate Lokpal Foundation Day? Answer of this question is 16th of Jan. 16th of Jan, we celebrate this. On this day, 16th of Jan 2014, Lokpal was established by the Act of 2013. So in 2014, for the first time, we established Lokpal. But this Foundation Day celebration we started now. हमने अभी से Foundation Day celebration start की है. So this was the first year we started celebrating this day. Otherwise, there was only like on the 14th of, on 16th of Jan 2014, we started this. So remember that. The chief guest was the function of Chief Justice of India. Sanjeev Khanna sir was the chief guest for this Lokpal Foundation Day. The first time we started celebrating this day. Next question. Which space agency conducted CROPS experiment to study plant growth in the space? So which space institution recently worked on the CROPS concept? This concept is very useful for the future point of view, and this experiment is conducted none other than the ISRO. So what is the name of this concept? Compact Research Module for Orbital Plant Studies. This is the name of the concept, and this concept will be really very helpful for the future point of view. Under the CROPS experiment, cowpea seeds sprouted in 4 days. So if we want to grow the plants in space, what kind of environment we should have, what kind of technology we should use, and for that purpose, ISRO implemented that. So very important, very, very important, and questions will be definitely in the exam. We'll go to the last 2 questions. Donald Trump took the oath of the office, and he is the which president of the United States? Finally, Donald Trump took the oath. The inauguration function was there. He took the oath. His vice president also took the oath. So he is a 47th president of USA. For the second time, he is becoming the president. In USA, one person can only be a president for 2 times, not more than that. So this is a kind of a last term for the Donald Trump, but the term is just started now. Let's see what will happen in the future, because there are so many different policies he already announced. He already gave the intention to implement many things. And with India's point of view, we need to think about the tariff and the import and export. Especially the tariffs will be very, very crucial for India, because already Donald Trump administration mentioned that India's tariff situation will be very difficult or very different than the Joe Biden's administration. So let's hope for the better. Right now, his vice president is JD Vance, again a very important person, and India was represented for this function by the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar Sahab. Next question and the last question. Which state government formed 16-member committee to draft the first ever AI policy, artificial intelligence policy? Now, the first state of India who is going to create a separate AI policy for the state, and this state government created a 16-member panel to give advice what kind of AI policy should be there for the state. So it's a good news that Indian states are now working on the AI policy, and the name of the state is Maharashtra. So Maharashtra government just now announced that they are going to work on the AI policy. So that's all from my side for the day. So we'll stop the session. Actually, there are some other questions, and I'll send you these questions through the PDF. So, and another thing is that on the 26th of Jan, there will be another scholarship test. Those who missed last time, they can give this scholarship test, and the Republic scholarship test for the RBI Grade B Supercoaching. Remember that time frame will be same, 8 a.m. till the 11:59 p.m. You can give the scholarship test whenever you want. For registration, the link is there in the description, so you can register yourself for the scholarship test. So that's all, guys, from my side for the day. We'll see you in the next session. Bye bye. Take care.